Hi everyone, good evening. So, welcome to the 38th episode of the Logophiles Lounge. Today we are going to do common pronoun problems, which is part of English grammar. So, yes, so am I audible clearly? Everything is fine. Just drop a message in the chat. Everything looks good. All right. Hi Suma, good evening. Okay. Devmitra, yes, good evening. Let's begin with this. We will quickly start the session. Uh, just a second. Yes, Bhaskar, Deepshikha, Ayushi, good evening, everyone. Okay, all right, everything is fine, great. I will share my screen now and we will begin with the 38th episode, which is common pronoun problems, right? Um, okay, so I see there are 10 people. We just missed the notification to some people who have subscribed. So I hope more people join in. But even if um, 10 people are more than enough to conduct the session, somehow we missed the notification that we had to send. All right, great. So let's begin now. I will now share my screen and then we'll get started. Yes, just hold for a second. Okay, so okay, great. So let's start now. This is quite an exercise intensive session, and it will be a very small session. It should not go beyond, I believe, not very small, but it should not go beyond uh, 45 minutes or 60 minutes max. So, okay, great. So this is the agenda we are going to do in terms of writing. What happens is we have seen while evaluating assignments that many people tend to make mistakes in pronouns, though it is not that visible, right? But when it does not sound good for an experienced writer to make these kind of mistakes. Unfortunately, if you pick up any generic article on the internet, you will find these mistakes, right? Almost 50 to 60% of the writers, and especially new writers, tend to make these mistakes. So we have uh, that is why we have covered this so that you don't make these mistakes, right? So this is the agenda. There are 7 topics that we are going to cover today. The background is the a pronoun replaces a noun, right? Pronouns are used to avoid repetition so that there is no repetition, and it looks good when you read a sentence. It looks powerful, effective. But incorrect usage of pronoun leads to confusion and sometimes entirely different meaning. In this episode, we will learn 7 pronoun mistakes that we have seen in the assignments submitted by our students. Let's see them. The first is shift in person. And that is, we know that the personal pronouns there are 3 types of personal pronouns. One is, I mean, this is first person, second person, third person, and each has two types, so singular and plural, right? You already know this, we know this. Now, where the mistakes happen. So, when you start writing, you will see that uh, avoid unnecessarily changing the person in sentences or paragraphs. Let's see a few examples. So see this. This way of writing. Many parents spank their children out of anger and frustration, but this is no excuse. Now, till this point, you were talking in the third person. We were talking about the parents, parents. But now, suddenly you came to you must first calm down before deciding how to discipline your children. Now, how come you were talking to, I mean, in the same paragraph, you were talking in the third person, you were uh, indicating parents, but suddenly you shifted to you, that is second person. Now, that is a mistake that you should not make. The correct version of this would be many parents spank their children out of anger and frustration, but this is no excuse. They must first calm down before deciding how to discipline their children. So here the correct uses will be they and not you. So make sure that you do not shift suddenly until there is some necessity of it or until it is required. Another example is if a student wants an exciting summer job, they can work in a national park. You won't earn a lot of money, but the recreational opportunities are amazing, right? Now, if you look at this, the correct version of this is again, in this case, you are talking about students in general, and then suddenly you shifted to you. Now, that is another problem. You won't earn a lot of money, you here, uh, suddenly you shifted from third person to second person. So the correct would be they. Again, you can see this. If students want an exciting summer job, they can work in a national park. They won't earn a lot of money, but the recreational opportunities are amazing. So they should be the correct example. You should not shift again unnecessarily. Now, there are certain required changes, required shifts when we write. So, for example, many shifts in person are logical and necessary, right? That means shifts are acceptable when required. For example, my friends are gone now, but I will never forget the good times we had our last summer together. Here, here I started with I will never forget the good times. We had, now I changed we had. Now here we was necessary, right? Because I'm talking about the collective experience, and therefore we have to. So since this was necessary, we were indicating the collective experience of all the people. So that this shift is fine. So I'm saying that you remember I highlighted this unnecessarily. Until you are trying to indicate something, do not shift that in person. Remember, we are talking about written communication, about writing, not about spoken communication. In spoken communication, you are there to help, or through your body language many people can understand that what you are trying to say. But in written communication, until it is necessary, you should not shift in person, right? And therefore, yes, Devmitra, you are absolutely correct. This is the very common mistake that people make, and, and many people don't even know that they are making this mistake. Now let's see a few exercises, quick exercises. I will ask the question. You need to type in the chat. You have to answer that. So in the following 5 sentences, I have taken up 5 questions. Identify if there is a shift in person and decide if the shift is unnecessary or necessary. If the shift is unnecessary, then correct the sentence. Again, point, remember this, we are talking about whether it is unnecessary or necessary. Okay, so let's see this. Tell me the answer, whether it is unnecessary, and if it is unnecessary, then fix it. If it is necessary, then it is okay. Finding a good book is easy if you know where to look. We can always ask a librarian for a recommendation. Yes. Yes, Jitendra, Sagrika, Devmitra, good evening. Yes. So, yes, answer this question. Uh, Finding a good book is easy if you know where to look. We can always ask a librarian for a recommendation. Tell me whether this is one should be instead if we. One can always ask a librarian. Okay, Deepshika is saying necessary. Deepshika, why it is necessary? Why this shift is necessary? One instead of we. Okay, Jitendra. Sagrika is saying it's okay. Okay. See, pay attention here. You are talking to you. That means in the second person you are talking to your reader. And then suddenly you are coming to first person and you are saying we can always ask a library for a recommendation. So until first sentence you are talking to your reader. Until here. Okay. But suddenly you changes to we can always ask a librarian for a recommendation. You are coming to first person. What about others? Where are others? Okay, so let me give you the correct answer. Why not you? I mean, the correct answer will be you. Finding a good book is easy if you know where to look because you are talking to your readers, and then you can always ask a librarian for a recommendation. Jitendra said that it should be one. Jitendra, it will not be one because see, here we were talking about you, right? Uh, this was in the second person, but here we shifted to first person. When you say one, that would be in the third person. So, since the first sentence was in the second person, the second sentence also will be in the second person. I was thinking, okay, Ayushi, Devshika is saying, how do I answer that? I don't know. Okay, you can simply write, I don't know, that's it. Okay. Um, all right. So I hope the first question is clear. Now please answer the second question. Remember again I am telling that when you are to think of the intent, when in the first sentence, when you are talking to your reader or when you are writing, choose a person, either first person, second person or third person and then stick to it. At least in one paragraph until it is necessary. Now look at the question number 2. When I go boating, you should always wear a life vest. Now, is this correct or not correct? What about this one? Yes, here in on YouTube Live, this one there is no option to speak, but we are soon coming up with the tools that will give you the option to speak also. So, along with me, you can also speak and participate. We'll come to that very soon. Yeah, but meanwhile, you have to just chat. Okay, okay. Um, okay, Ayushi is saying it is unnecessary in place of you. Um, should be. What should be the answer? Okay. Please try to write the correct sentence. It should be I. Okay, when I go boating, I should always wear a life vest. Okay, we. Okay, okay, okay. When I go boating, I should wear a life vest. I am going boating. I am talking about myself. If I would have written when we go boating, we should always wear a life vest. So it should be again, we started with the first person and then we will remain in the first person, right? Yes. Yes, Ayushi, you are right. You mentioned I. Yes. Jyoti is saying when I go boating, I should always wear. Yes, it should be I. Absolutely. Now let's come to question number three. In question number three, again, my favorite time of year is autumn. It is a good time for you to go on hikes with your friends. Now answer this question. Whether this is shift, whether there is a shift or not. If there is a shift, it is necessary or unnecessary, or if it is unnecessary, then fix that and make the correction. Surendra is saying we have to think of singular and plural. Yes, we have to think of that as well. Yes. Jitendra is saying unnecessary. It should be me instead of you. Okay. Suma is saying me. Okay. Manjari is saying you me. That means replace you with me. Okay. Um, Jitendra and my instead of yours. Your. Okay. Umesh is saying my friends. Okay. All right. Let's see the correct answer. And this is me and my. Now, when I saw Manjari, Suma, um, Jitendra had Jitendra again had corrected. He has given two answers. You missed one question while you gave correct answer of. I mean, you just picked up this me, not my. So of that also, right? Um. Okay. So Jyoti Prakash, all right. Anish is saying my favorite time of year. Okay, it is good time to go with my friends. Absolutely, to go on hikes. It is good time for me. For me should be there. Okay, all right. Now let's move to question number four. We are entitled to our opinion, but you should be considerate when you presenting your but when presenting your argument. Now answer this question. This is Anis is asking, is writing me necessary in this case in question number three? Anish, writing me is, I mean, the style could be different and you may just miss that me. But here the point was that it was written, we have to just change the shift in person whether it is required or not. Okay? So that is why in this particular context we will put me. We instead of you. Okay, Jitendra, our in place of your. All right. Uh, okay. We are entitled to our opinion, but you should be considerate when presenting your argument. So, it should be we or our. Okay. So, Nupur is saying we should be considerate when presenting our presentation, our argument. Dipshika is saying we. Okay. Great answer. Right. Absolutely, Dipshika. Um, Jyoti is saying we are entitled to our opinion, but we should be considerate when presenting our argument. Right. So most of you have got this correctly. We should be considerate when presenting our argument. We are entitled, absolutely. Great. So I am glad that you are picking this up. Right. Now let's move to the next part. My siblings and I play a lot of board games. We always compete to see who can win the most games in a row. Now tell me, in this particular case, uh, the shift in person is necessary or not? And if it is unnecessary, make the correction. Okay. All right. Devmitra, for which question you were talking? Which? Aishu is saying it is necessary in question number 5. Jitendra, Snupur, and Suma is saying it is necessary. Okay. Soman Lahiri is saying it is not necessary. To fix that, why it is not necessary, just fix that. Okay, let's see the correct sentence. Again, this is a correct sentence because here it is necessary. Because we were talking about my siblings and I. That were we were talking collective experience. We always compete. So here when we are talking about the shift, it is necessary and the sentence is correct. Dipshika is absolutely fine. Yes, correct, you are right. Surendra, yes, you are also right. So yes, so before we move to the lesson 2, just to give you a quick idea of whenever you are writing, when you decide that you are writing in the either third person, second person, stick to that. At least win that paragraph. Okay, you may change that only when it is needed. Okay, and this is one of the most common mistakes that people make when writing. While writing, these small mistakes, though, it make your content weak. All right. Now let's move to the second lesson, the general you. Now that is very interesting. When we write content, we tend to use it's like you. I mean, we also call it conversational tone, which is talking to your reader. Okay. Jitendra, let me get one question from Jitendra. He's saying we is representing my siblings and I. Had it been my siblings only, there would have been they instead of we. Jitendra, absolutely, you are right. So, in case of you, so when you write something, like I'm speaking to you and I'm saying when you write something, okay, so, and I use a lot of you in the sentences. And the reason for that is I'm talking to the reader, to my reader. And this is perfectly fine. Okay? Absolutely, there is no problem with writing you. But the problem comes in a few sentences. And if you don't remove that, it's really become a kind of very weak sentence and it does not reflect good on the writer's part. So to avoid sounding pompous, some writers use you instead of one to refer to a non-specific person. Depending on the formality of the writing, this can be acceptable when used sparingly and when the sentence is an obvious generalization. For example, this is acceptable when someone yells fire in a crowded building. You don't stick around to ask questions. You have used you. That means you are generalizing it it is perfectly fine. But let's look at this one. Sometimes, by repeatedly addressing the reader as you can sound accusatory. That means you are accusing the reader of something, as if pointing your fingers directly at the reader. And that is the problem. Also, I have seen many times when you try to make your content conversational, you tend to make these mistakes. So, the incorrect part is once you understand the causes of obesity, you can start changing your lifestyle. Now, you are accusing your reader, though by the way, it is grammatically correct. It is perfect to write you. Yes, you are talking to your reader, but think of it as part of the reader when they are reading something. It will look like you are accusing them that, uh, I mean, you do not understand the causes of obesity. Or, I mean, suppose you have written an article about the weight loss, and your reader is coming to you uh, for some tips on the weight loss, and then you've written something like this. Once you can understand um, causes of obesity, then it's a problem, right? You are accusing your reader, and they will not feel good about that. To change that, yes, Nupur, absolutely. Devmitra, you are right. You can prefer using one, but many cases we tend to use we you, right? So the correct part would be once people understand the causes of obesity, they can start changing their lifestyle. So what you do is diplomatically you shift that to people. Now, people who people? You don't know, right? Um, yes, Dipsika, absolutely right. We can write we also. So now I'm saying that I'm also part of that. We as an individual, we are trying to generalize that. So we can use we as well. That will also work. Or you can use people. That is a kind of, it's quite generalization, and it's okay to use people. They can start changing their lifestyle. Now, it depends on context whether you will use we, people, you. Let's see, it gives the same meaning, but the connotation is slightly different. Let's see how. These three sentences use different ways of generalizing the person. One version is not necessarily correct or incorrect. These are not correct or incorrect. This is all of these are fine. But each has a slightly different effect. The audience and the formality of writing also play a role in which version to choose. So let's see this. When it comes to recycling, one can always do better. So, third person. When it comes to recycling, we can always do better. Now, here we have used we. When it comes to recycling, people can always do better. Three giving the same meaning but slightly different impact and effect. Now, which one should you choose? It's entirely up to you. There is no, and it's entirely up to if it is formal, then either you will choose one or people. Okay. If you are writing an opinion piece, you can use we because you are using a collective responsibility as a we as a people. So that is how you generalize things. But make sure that when you write you, it should not be offensive. Even if it is true, it should not be offensive. Right? So when we use those accusatory kind of sentences in context, we just shift that from you to some third person, either people or one, and it works well. So the final thing is to avoid accusatory sentence formations. Let's do a quick exercise to understand this concept better. Now, I've got a question from Jitendra. He's saying that if our conversation started from you in initial paragraphs, will it be appropriate to change you with people, citing yes, absolutely it will be fine because in that case, this is where it is necessary part. You are not changing it unnecessarily. You are changing it intentionally so that readers do not get offended. And especially when you write tips and advising people on things that how to do this, how to do that, it's as part of your writer to inspire, motivate people. It's not about you accuse them. Somebody has come to you that how can I improve my communication skills? And you say that if you will not practice, you will never learn it. It's kind of, don't demotivate them. Rather, you say people who do not practice, they never learn things. If you can practice, you can really do well. That change is necessary, and you have to understand that. We have to maintain, yes, that is also there, but in some cases, when it is necessary, we tend to make things more diplomatic. Question number 6. Okay, try answering this. You have to change you to we or people when you think it is accusatory. Okay, only if it is accusatory, else you don't have to change it. So, question number 6 is, um, when it comes to dating, you never know when you will bump into the person. Yeah. Jiten, that is there. You have to choose between maintaining that consistency or uh, making things slightly diplomatic, especially when you are talking to the reader. That is your decision that has to be made. It is just that if you're being uh, accusatory, then it could be a question mark. Okay, the readers may not like that. Okay, what about the sixth question? Can you answer this? When it comes to dating, you will never know when you will bump into the one. Now, we have to figure out in these questions that whether the sentence is accusatory or not. If it is accusatory, then we need to change. If it is not, then we don't need to change. Okay, Dipshika is saying you can be replaced by people. Okay. Sidak is saying we in place of you. Okay. Ayushi is saying it is correct. Nupur is saying people. Okay. Anish is saying this is not accusatory. He has the experience. Okay. Uh, all of us might have that experience. I was just kidding. Okay. Um, People. See, this is not accusatory. This sentence is not accusatory, right? When it comes to dating, you never know you will bump into the one. You never know when you will get the right person. It is not accusatory. Therefore, we will not change that. We will keep it as it is. Okay, it is correct, right? Now let's move to the next question, which is, so in this case, I told you that Jitenji, you can say people don't know. I mean, that is fine. See, I'm not saying one way of writing is correct or another way of writing is incorrect. I'm just saying that whether this is accusatory or not. If it is accusatory, then it is recommended that you shift from you to they or people or we. If it is not accusatory, then you keep it as it is. It's okay. Okay, the only thing that I mentioned here, this was the tip that accusatory, that was the problem. If that is not the problem, that is not the case, then either you write we, I, everything is okay, it does not matter. So, okay, now answer the seventh question in this way. It is commonly accepted that whenever you let your dog out in public without a leash, you are risking the safety of your dog and others. Is this sentence accusatory? If no, it's okay. Tell me no. If it is yes, then tell me yes. And pick up the words where we can make the changes. You have to focus on accusatory. You don't have to be concerned about whether we can write they or we or people. You simply have to focus about whether the intent or whether the sentence seems to be accusatory or not. Suma is saying yes, it seems to be accusatory. Jitendra is also saying yes. Um, Ayushi is saying accusatory. Okay, Dipshika is also saying accusatory. Yes, okay. Then okay, suggest me what kind of changes can we make in this case then. Which changes can we make? Charu is saying the sentence is correct, but Charu, is this sentence accusatory? This was my question. Nupur is saying yes. Then what kind of changes do I need to make? Yes, Dipshika, please write your question over here. Um, Suma, I think replace with we. Okay. We. Okay. People can be used in place of you, and similar changes can be made then making it in the third person. Yes, Ayushi, you are right. Dipshika is saying you refers to some specific person. No, Dipshika, you refers to the reader who is reading it. So if you are reading that content, you become that you. That is you is referring to the reader, the you. Okay. So whoever is reading the content, you refers to that person. And therefore, if the sentence seems to be accusatory, I mean, we are making a strong statement, we have to make sure that we do not offend the readers, and therefore, we try changing that you, right, to some more generalized form like people or we, so that it does not look like it is being accusatory. Yes, it is dynamic, absolutely. Now, there are two ways that can be done. Either you write the answer, correct answer would be it is commonly accepted that whether we let our dog out in public without a leash, we are risking the safety of our dog and others. Either we, that becomes collective we, or people. It is commonly accepted that whenever people let their dog out in public without a leash, they are risking the safety of their dog and others. Right. Yes. Right. So, right. One can also be used. Absolutely. Okay. Then let's move to question number 8. Again, you have to check whether this statement is accusatory or not. If it is accusatory, then change that. If you stopped relying on the government for your food and housing, national debt could be greatly decreased. Right? Now, here, tell me whether this question number 8, the statement made in question number 8, is accusatory or not. If it is accusatory, then say yes and then recommend the changes that we need to make it better. Ayushi is saying it is accusatory. Okay. Suma is also saying yes. Devshika is saying yes. Okay. Siddharth Gambhir is saying yes. All right. Non-accusatory. Soman, it is accusatory. Yes, it's like you're saying to poor people that if you were not poor, the government would have been, government national debt would not have been that much. So we or our, yes, right. Either people or we can use any one of these. Prabha is saying if people stopped relying on the government, yes, right. So if people stopped or if we stopped relying, both will be fine. right? So that is where um, you have to understand, right? Yes, yes. So the answer could be both people and we. So all of you, Devmitra, Pravad, Charu, Jyoti, Suma, Ayushi, and Nupur, all of you, and Jitendra, all of you have got this point. Right. Question number 9. It just goes to show that you cannot judge a book by its cover. Stop sounding wrong. Ayushi, why that is sounding wrong? Um, we are talking in the past, that is okay. That is not sounding wrong. Okay, now answer this question, which is, it just goes to show that you cannot judge a book by its cover. Whether this is accusatory or not, this is okay. If it is accusatory, then you need to make changes. If it is not, then it is okay. It is Jitendra saying not accusatory, okay. Siddharth Gambhir is saying not accusatory, alright. Ayushi is saying, I mean, we could have placed. Ayushi, you can place a helping verb, but that will not add any value information to the content, and therefore it is not required. It is more direct. Okay, Anish is saying it is accusatory. Okay, it is correct. It is not accusatory. It is just a recommendation that if you judge a book by its cover, uh, yes, it is not accusatory. Okay, so therefore we can go ahead with you, and that is fine. Absolutely. Now, question number 10, and the final question in this series, in lesson number 2, since it's a proverb, judge a book by its cover. Right. Okay, now answer question number 10. This one, many health benefits come from exercising daily. If you had proper motivation, you would create a daily exercise routine. How is that? Is this accusatory? Many health benefits come from exercising daily. If you had proper motivation, you would create a daily exercise routine. Whether it is accusatory, yes, Ayushi is saying it is accusatory. What about others? No, okay. Suma is saying accusatory. Okay. See, until this point, many health benefits come from exercising daily. This was fine. But the moment you got into this, if you had proper motivation, you would create a daily exercise routine. This is now directly hitting to the reader. So it's better you to use if one can had, if it is a formal writing, if it is casual or informal writing, then you can go ahead with this. If it is a formal writing, then it's better to use if we or people had formal proper motivation, then we can use we or people. As such, this sentence is fine, but if it is a formal writing, we will use we or people or one, right? Okay, so we, people, right? We need to make those changes. Okay, in case of, by the way, one thing. If it is informal writing, then you can accuse. Okay, And that is why you will see a lot of political rhetoric is written in the form of accusations. But if it is a formal writing, if it is a business writing, if it is uh, academic writing, then this becomes accusations, and we try to do that in the third person. Jitendra is saying it is pointing the finger on motivation, not at the reader. It is pointing, Jitendra, it is pointing the finger at the motivation of the reader, right? And that is why it seems accusatory. But yes, I said that if it's informal writing, suppose you are writing your personal blog or something, you can go ahead with this you. If you are writing a formal writing like business, proper business, okay, if you're a blogger and writing on your blog, that is okay. But if you're working for a company and that is a big company, they don't take things personal on a personal basis. Similarly, if you are writing for an academic assignment, this will be, you need to change that. All right, let's move to pronoun agreement in numbers. The next set of mistakes that people make. Okay, that is our lesson number 3, and this is about making replacing a proper pronoun for either for a singular or a plural noun. So a common error is to use they, that is a plural noun, when referring to a singular noun. So you refer a singular noun, but you replace that by a plural pronoun. And that is a problem. Because when you refer pronoun, just remember it is a replacement of noun. So if you are replacing a noun with a proper pronoun, then you have to use exactly the same form. Whether noun is singular, then you have to use a singular pronoun. If the noun is plural, then you have to use a plural pronoun. So for example, I hate it when a customer does not know what they want, right? So the correct would be, I hate it when customers do not know what they want. Here I have made it plural and then I have converted this into plural as well. In this case, also I hate it when a customer does not know what he or she wants. So this he or she, and we will talk about why not to use this, because this is ancient way of writing. This is very old way of writing. When you do not want to talk about gender of a person, or when you want to generalize the gender, then you use he or she. This is not in trend today. We'll talk about it in a later lesson. But in this particular case, remember that either you make it plural form and then use they, or if you are keeping it singular noun, then replace with a singular pronoun. Jitendra is asking, unless commented by a reader, can we use you considering the readers are intelligent enough without bothering about accusatory sentences? No, you don't have to worry whether how readers are responding. It's better, Jitendra, think of whether you are talking about formal writing or informal writing. If you're using informal writing, then you can go ahead with you. If you're using formal writing, that is in business, technical, or academic writing, then use replace that with third person, and you have to worry about accusatory or non-accusatory sentences. All right. So this is about pronoun agreement in numbers, and this you have to remember that whenever you replace a singular noun with a pronoun, make sure that you are replacing with a singular pronoun. Let's see how you can do a few questions quickly, and then we will try to find out how to deal with he or she, because it is just adding, see, 3 words. Just for replacing a noun, we are using 3 words. So this is not a good way of replacing or using a pronoun, right? So let's see that. But first, a quick question on this. Question number 11. A student can always go to the library for all their research needs. Answer this question. You have to see that the pronouns are being used are correct pronoun or not. Okay? And if it is not agreeing in number, then you have to change whether the noun or the pronoun so that the noun and pronoun could be uh, could agree in numbers. Both are in the same numbers, right? Okay, answer this question number 11. All of his. Soman, why his? Why not her? Why not her? Suma is saying students. Students, okay. And what changes will you make in the pronoun? His or her instead of theirs. Okay, that is also one way of making that. Krupa is saying students, okay. You can be her also, okay. Yes, it can be her or his, right? His, her. Okay. Okay. So the correct answer would be students can always go to the library for all of their research needs. So replace, as most of you correctly said, replace from a student to students, and you will see the same thing that um, you don't have to make this his or her. Okay, it will save a few words. Or you can also use like this one, a student can always go to the library for all of his or her research needs, but that's slightly awkward, not sounding right. His oblique her, that can also be used, but again the problem is it's adding unnecessary words. So it's better to make this plural. This is a tip to make sure that your writing becomes more direct. Okay. Um, Answer question number 12. Sometimes the best resume is the one that appeals to an employer's visual taste. Will you make any changes in this? Do you see any pronouns and subjects which do not agree in numbers? And if there are changes, then what would be the changes? If there are no changes, then simply write no. Yes. Answer that. Sometimes the best resume, Jitendra is saying no. Sometimes the best resume is the one that appeals to an employer's visual taste. Surendra is also saying no. Okay. Soman is saying no change is required. Ansul is saying the best resume is the one that. Best resume is the one that. Okay, that means Anshul, it's you are keeping the same thing. Okay. So, all right. Let's see the answer. It does not require any changes. It is okay. Okay, because sometimes the best resume is the one. So best resume and one. It's a correct replacement. We are talking about the best resume, that is replacing it with one. So no change is required. What about question number 3? 13, sorry, question number 13. Again, you have to see whether the pronouns and subjects agree in number or not. In order for a patient To be in top shape for giving blood, they must stay hydrated days in advance. In this particular case, do you find that this sentence requires any changes? Because this is about, uh, read this, in order for a patient, talking about a patient, to be in the top shape for giving blood, they must stay hydrated days in advance. Okay, Ayushi is saying patients in place of a patient, alright. Jitendra is saying patients instead of patient, or his, her instead of they, right. Siddharth is saying patients. Soman is saying change is required. Okay, so what changes, Soman? Surendra is saying patients. Most of you have got the right answer. In order for patients. Always when you have an option, choose for patients, that is plural form. Because in that case you will just use they and things will be done. You don't have to bother about he or she or he oblique his or her. You don't have to worry about those. So it's always better to go ahead with plural form. Alright, question number 14. When writing a research paper, it is not necessary to ask permission from the author before quoting their work. Now tell me, do you think any changes needed in this? If a change is required, then what would be that? When writing a research paper, it is not necessary to ask permission from the author before quoting their work. So, Jitendra is saying authors instead of author. Okay. Suma is saying authors. Someone is saying change is required. Right. Yes, again, most of you are correct. When writing a research paper, it is not necessary to ask permission from the authors before quoting their work. So just we can make from authors to authors, and this becomes fine. Question number 15. A homeowner can do many of their home repairs, but sometimes they need to ask a professional for their opinion. Now try to find out mistakes in this or errors in this. And try to fix them. Okay, authors. What about this one? Question number 15. Surendra saying professionals. Okay. Surendra saying his, her instead of their, or homeowners instead of homeowner. Okay. Anil Samal is saying homeowners. Okay. Somalary is he needs his opinion. Okay. Right, yes. Most of you are again correct. This is homeowners and this is professionals. And this will make it correct. Homeowners and professionals. And this will make it correct. Alright. Now let's move to the next session of this. Next lesson 4, which is, okay, so I hope this is clear, okay, to everybody. So this you made sure that your subject or the noun and pronoun agree in numbers. Next is the lesson number 4, which is sexist usage of pronoun. Now, this is something which is again, many people tend to either make this mistake or they tend to make their sentences too boring and wordy to read, right? It seems too boring. And some people have a habit of writing sexist sentences without having any intention of that. Okay? So when they will talk about pilots, they will refer it as a men, he. When you talk about nurses, you will talk like she. When you talk about a businessman, it's like entrepreneur, you will talk about he. When you talk of um, a kind of president, you talk about he. Okay? You don't think she can also be the president. So many times we, though in case of president it is kind of fixed, okay, it may be he or she depending on who the president is. But when you are talking about non-specific people, okay, non-specific things, designations of people, then you have to make sure that you do not sound stereotyping or you do not sound sexist in the uses of your term. So avoid favoring one gender when referring to the non-specific persons. This mistake is especially common in stereotyping particular professions or activities as essentially male or female. A good doctor, for example, a good doctor will always listen to his patients. Now, what about the female doctors if you are writing his? Prior to feminism movement before 1975 and all, this was kind of acceptable, okay, and this was true that with feminist movement this came as part of it, that because if you look at before 1975, most of the generalization is done based on his. So if you are talking about a boss, you will talk like he was a tough boss. Now female bosses can also be tough, right? So similarly, the student must apply to the nursing program if she wishes to become a nurse. Now, that is also a kind of that is stereotyping, and then you are trying to say that all nurses are female only. But that is also not true. Men are also nurses. Now, how do you avoid that? You know this happens. Okay, you might be doing it unintentionally, but how do you avoid that? Let's see this. An effective solution, when possible, is to make the noun and pronouns plural. That is the best possible way because the entire issues of he or she will just go away. Of course, if you have the intention to show he or she, then it is okay. If you do not have the intention, if you want to make generalization and focus more on the professions rather than the gender part of it, then it's better that you make them in noun or pronouns in plural. Okay, so they become gender neutral. So better is good doctors will always listen to their parents, right? Not a good doctor listen to his patients. Sorry, it's patients, not parents. Similarly, students must apply to nursing program if they wish to become nurses and not a student and she, right? So the moment you write they or their, now this becomes gender neutral and its focus is on students and good doctors, not on he or she. There is another possibility to rephrase the sentence completely, but that is something which is, it's up to you whether you choose this style or not. Listening to the patients is the hallmark of a good doctor. Students who want to become nurses must apply to the nursing program. This is also one way of writing gender neutral sentences. But just to, if you ask me whether it is so important to focus on gender neutral sentences, I say yes. Today it has become very important, right? It is quite focused, quite important to focus on the professions or things rather than writing general biased sentences. So don't make those mistakes. There is another alternative like this. The following examples represent additional options. However, these constructions can be awkward and wordy. Avoid using these constructions unless completely necessary. If it is completely necessary, then only you should use these, like this one. A good doctor will always listen to her patients. Now, this his of her is not um, something, I mean, it is grammatically correct, it is okay to write, but not that, um, it's not giving that feeling. And plus, it is just adding, it will break the flow, it is adding two words just to convey and indicate one thing. So, avoiding this is important. Similarly, when you write he or she, again you are using three words, he or she, for what? Just to replace a student, right? So this is making it wordy. You can still do it when it is necessary, right? But when it is necessary, when you are forced to keep this in singular and you cannot make this in plural because you are talking about a very specific person, right? And therefore, in that case, of course, you can use it. Even if it is wordy, it is grammatically correct and gender neutral. Jitendra is saying if you are delivering content from other paper which contained sexist pronouns, uh, then also you have to make it something which is not sexist or gender neutral. Yes, Demitra, making it plural is much better than writing his, her, and or this one, he or she. Okay. Now, a quick look at the exercises. Okay, tell me, a firefighter must always keep track of his gear. Gear. How can you change that? A firefighter must always keep track of his gear. What is the best way to change that? It should be easy. Yes, Jitendra, right. You have to paraphrase that. Firefighters and theirs. Right. Please do not make it his or her. It's not good. Okay. So, I mean, why it is not changes not required? Firefighter, is it necessary that it will be his? Why not her? Yeah. Okay. All right. Firefighters and there. Most of you are correct. Let's now move to question number 17. Sorry. By the time a child turns 7, he should know how to tie his shoes. Now tell me, what do you think about this? By the time a child turns 7, he should know how to tie his shoes. Okay, most of you are correct in terms of firefighters. Now, question number 17, please answer that. Children, they, there, okay. Okay, Nupur is saying right sentence. Why it is right, Nupur? Um, yes. Children, they, there, okay, children. Okay, most of you have understood. Uh, so child also we make it gender neutral because the child could be a female child also, right? So we will write by the time children turns 7, they should know how to tie their shoes. And that will be a better way, better approach. Yes, correct. What about question number 18? If a student wants to avoid missing his appointments, he should keep a planner with them. How do you fix that? If a student wants to avoid missing his appointments, he should keep a planner with him. This is again, it is talking about a student. Okay, wants to avoid missing his appointments, he should keep a planner with him. Yes, there and they. Okay, Anil is saying there and they. Suma is saying students want their, they, them. Students, okay. Jitendra, right. Anil, Prabha is saying students want. Okay, right. Yes, should keep, right. Some of you are suggesting that here instead of he it should be students. No, we can simply do it if students want to avoid missing their appointments. They should keep a planner with them. So we can have this they, and here we can have students, right? And since we are changing the students, we have to change this verb as well so that this verb agrees with the subject. So in this particular case, it was if a student wants, this will become if students want, right? So, um, so we have to change the verb as well just to make sure that the subject and verbs agree. Question 19. A forgetful person may lose her keys often. Um, yes. Okay, I also tend to lose my keys always. Means I will keep somewhere else and I will try finding. Many a times I keep keys in my hands and I keep searching for it. So some of you might be there like me also, yeah? That is why this example. So yes, try to answer this. A forgetful person may lose her keys often. Forgetful persons, okay. Forgetful, okay. It is, isn't there unnecessary associated with an appointment as it has to be student's appointment only? Jitendra, I did not understand your question. Isn't there unnecessary associated with appointments? I mean, they if they need appointment, they need to have a planner. This is what they're saying. Okay, Anil is saying there, Suma is saying there. Okay, forgetful persons. Remove her. Okay. Okay, forgetful persons. Okay, see, look at this kind of a general stereotyping. You are assuming that only females are forgetful and they tend to lose their keys often. Okay, so of course you can make it simple like forgetful people or forgetful persons may lose their keys often. Yes, right. So let's move to the final question of this lesson, which is when people are hospitalized, a nurse and her assistant often attend to them. By the way, this is attend to them, this is not tend to them, this is attend to them. Yeah, so okay. So now tell me, answer this question. No, Jitendra, not necessarily. I mean, we are just focus on the gender bias. Yes. Okay, Ayushi is saying, what if we use might? Will it make a change? Okay, let me answer. This is an important question. So she's saying that will that make a difference if we use might instead of may? See, Ayushi, when we use may, the possibility is real. That means a forgetful person may lose. That means the frequency of forgetfulness, okay, is very high, right? So there is a good possibility that the person will lose her keys. But if we use might, then the possibility is very less, right? So there is no fixed numbers, but we can say that I might fail. That means that the possibility of me being fail is very less. There is no possibility, there is minimal possibility. But if I say I may fail, that means the possibility is really high and there is a good possibility that I will fail. And that is the difference between may and might. Okay, so remember that. Yes, Ayushi, is that clear? Okay, the final question is okay, when people are hospitalized, a nurse and her assistant often attend to them. Okay, most of you are correct in this case. When people are hospitalized, nurses and their assistants often attend to them. Yes, absolutely, yes, correct. Nurses and their assistants often attend to them. This is correct. Now, yes, people are hospitalized. Why were? WhatsApp status is saying why were. I mean, are it? We are talking about in the present. Okay. Jitendra is saying that please also guide about the uses of that versus which, especially if they are to be used in the same sentence. Okay, Jitendra, we have covered that versus which. We will just see when do we use that. All right, so most of you are correct about this sentence as well, this answer as well. Now let's move to the next part, which is vague pronouns. Okay, means vague pronoun means when you are unable to find out which person this pronoun is referring to or which thing a particular pronoun is referring to. Let's see this. Remember that a pronoun replaces a noun. So that instead of saying my roommate, now look at this sentence. My roommate dropped off his car so that I could fix the car. Now car is being repeated twice, so I say my roommate dropped off his car so that I could fix it. When I am saying it, that means it is um, talking about car. We are replacing with car. But before that, let me answer one question from Jitendra. He's saying why not a nurse and an assistant is correct. Because Jitendra, it was, look at this sentence, it was writing about her, often her assistant. That was the problem, which was with her, because you were assuming that the nurse would be female. And we had to change that. Right? That is the only issue. Now, in this case, my roommate dropped off his car so that I can fix the car. We replace that car with it. That is why we use pronouns, okay, so that a word should not be repeated twice. But there could be some problems. And when will be the problem? The problem is, problems arise when it is not clear which noun the pronoun replaces. Right? So, if you talk about my roommate dropped off his car and computer so that I could fix it. Now think of it. My roommate dropped off his car and computer so that I could fix it. Now, can you tell me what this it is indicating? Because roommate dropped both the car and the computer. Now, which one do you want to fix? Does he want both of these to be fixed, car as well as the computer? Or he wants just to fix either car or the computer, right? So what does it refer to? The car or the computer? Now, the better version would be my roommate dropped off his computer for me to repair because now the focus is the computer want is to be repaired. He also dropped off his car. Many a time, when you simply have to shorten a sentence, you cannot shorten a sentence like this. Like this. My roommate dropped off his car and computer so that I can fix it. Because this is becoming vague. It is not telling what exactly this it is referring to. Jitendra is saying I replaced her with Anne. Just Jitendra, just look at the part of gender bias, okay, and then we will discuss it. Still, you need any help in that? Okay. Now this is an example of vague pronoun. Okay, because this it does not indicate whether both or only car or only computer. So we need to paraphrase, rephrase the sentence so that for the reader it becomes clear and there is no doubt for different readers. Okay, yes, you can write so that Devmitra is saying, can we write both at the end? Yes, my roommate dropped off his car and computer so that I can fix both. Absolutely. Or so that I can fix the car. That is also fine. But um, it should not. There should not be any vague pronoun, so that different users should not understand different meaning from that. Now, there are three ways that people tend to use vague pronouns. And the very first one is this. And if you have used premium version of Grammarly, then you will see that whenever you have written this, you are starting a sentence with this, then it tells you unclear antecedents. The real reason is this is a vague pronoun. Okay, let's see in the examples. The word this can cause confusion because it can refer to anything, a phenomenon, a situation, or a group of things. Until it sounds very clear to the reader what exactly you are referring to, make sure that you do not use this. You do not begin your sentence with this. Okay? In spoken communication, this can be used frequently. This term can be used frequently. Why? Because I'm there to help you understand things. In written communication, since a lot of interpretation has to be done by the readers, we should avoid this and make clear things. So, one example of vague thing is the music at the concert was too loud and the crowd was too wild. The food was terrible and it rained for 2 hours. This made me feel sick the next day. What made you feel sick the next day? Was it the food? Was it the rain? Was it too loud music? Or was it the crowd? Or almost everything? And that is not being clear here. That is why this is not required. This is incorrect uses of this. Okay, this is a vague pronoun. How to modify this? The music at the concert was too loud and the crowd was too wild. The food was terrible and it rained for almost 2 hours. The bad food and chilly weather made me feel sick the next day. This is you have to now this clearly tells that it was the bad food and the chilly weather that made me feel sick the next day. This clarity is needed. Many people tend to use start a sentence with this, and if there is only one precedent that you are talking about, then it might work, else it creates a problem. Okay? Alright. So this is a vague pronoun. Another vague pronoun is that. Very similar to this. Now that. Make sure it is clear whether that refers to many things or one thing specifically. Now look at this. He said he got stuck in traffic and blew a tire. He also said he ran out of gas just before he arrived. That seems pretty unlikely to me. Now, what seems unlikely? Is it that he got in traffic, or that he blew in a tire, or that he ran out of gas? What exactly seemed unlikely to me? It is not clear. Therefore, I will use he said he got stuck in traffic and blew a tire. He also said he ran out of gas just before he arrived. Running out of gas seems pretty unlikely to me. If you meant running out of gas, if you meant something else, so you can write also like this. He said he got stuck in traffic and blew a tire. He also said he ran out of gas just before he arrived. It seems unlikely that all these things would happen in one trip. That all these things means you are talking about everything that you just spoke. So that you have to remember. Okay. So it refers to something that just comes before it. Okay. Whichever word is or whichever noun is close nearer to it, it refers to that. Okay, Jitendra? All right. Another vague pronoun that is used is in terms of people. So when discussing multiple persons, make sure it is clear who the pronouns refer to. For example, my mom and sister went shopping last night. My mom bought my sister new shoes, but when they came home, she decided that she did not like them. Now, who decided? Okay, is the mom or the sister? Who did not like? What the mom decided that mom did not like, or the sister decided that sister did not like, or the mom decided that sister did not like, or the sister decided that mom did not like. This C is not referring to a particular person. Therefore, you need to change this. My mom and sister went shopping last night. My mom bought my sister new shoes, but when they came home, my sister decided she did not like them. Right? Now, my sister, and then C is talking about my sister. That is the correct uses. This was the vague uses of pronoun. Remember that whenever you are using multiple things, you have to take care of this, that there is no vagueness. The reader should not get different meanings from your pronouns. Okay? It should be specific, and therefore it's better to be specific. Now let's do a quick exercise on this about vague pronoun. Rewrite the following sentences so that the vague pronouns refer to something specific. So, the wedding cake arrived late and was covered in still icing roses. This was very upsetting for the bride. Tell me, whether what this is referring to, and how can we um, make changes to make sure that this is indicating a specific thing. Was it wedding cake that arrived late? Was the late an issue? Or the icing was an issue? What was the issue, or both of them was the issue? Devmitra, yes, it can be referred to mom also, that was also fine. Okay. So both these were okay. Ayush is saying the wedding cake arrived late and was covered in the till icing roses. The late arrival of the cake was very upsetting for the bride. Yes. So that was either the late arrival or the icing. roses. You can decide. I mean, the bride can decide, and she can be upset about anything. But as a writer, you have to make sure that you write this exactly the same thing for which she is upset. Because it was late, the bride was upset. Ayushi, whatever you said is also correct. It is just different way I have written the answer, but the way you have written is also correct. Was upsetting. Okay, most of you agree here that the late arrival was the issue, so that was upsetting for the bride, and that was okay. So make sure that when you use this, be careful. Okay? Yes, Nupur, Surendra, you were right. Moving to the next question is this one. He only wore blue jeans and an old T-shirt on the date. Um, yes, Debitra, I mean, whichever things made the bride upset, you can write that. But this should not be there. And he brought me flowers and opened the car door for me. That made my day. So he only wore blue jeans and an old T-shirt on the date. And he brought me flowers and opened the car door for me. That made my day. Now, what made her day? I'm considering that he was dating her. Okay, so in that case, in this case, what could be that? The old T-shirt or jeans or the flower or that he opened the car door, which was made her day, by the way. So when you refer to that, which one would you refer? That is also a problem. It is the whole activity instead of that. Yes, Jitendra, one possibility is the entire activity that made her day. That is true. What about other things? The flowers, okay. See, that is the problem of using that. Somebody can say the flowers, somebody can say the opening the door, somebody can say like the entire things. We do not know. But just for the correction of this, just for making this correction, we will remove that and replace that with something that made her day, right? His good manners made my day. That is okay. Yes, Nupur. Great. Ayushi is saying that he only wore blue jeans and an old t-shirt on the date, and he brought me flowers and opened that garden for me. Those lovely flowers made my day. Absolutely. So all these things, yes. So, but one thing you agree, right? That is making something um, vague, right? You agree with this, and therefore, as a writer, you should not use like this. Otherwise, readers will take different meanings. He only wore blue jeans. The flowers made my day. I have written in this particular case. You can use different. So everything, opening the door of the cars, uh, the manners, the old T-shirt and jeans that anything and everything could be there. All these things. But yes, the key idea was that should not have been there. Yes, question number 3. My professor, Mr. Brown, lives next to my brother. His house is white with blue shutters. In this case, whose house is white with blue shutters? Can you answer this one? That my professor, Mr. Brown, lives next to my brother. His house is white with blue shutters. Yes, Ayushi, you can add adjectives, but try to make it within the sentence only, because we are focusing on learning about the vague pronoun. But yes, if you want to use adjectives, you can. That is okay. Professor's house is white, okay, with blue shutters. Again, you look at this like this, that his is a vague pronoun. Why? Because it is not sure that are you talking about your brother's house or professor's house, Mr. Brown's house. Okay? Yes. Depending on whose house you want to make it white, you can do it. But when you write, you have to be correct. And therefore, Mr. Brown's house is white with blue shutters. That is okay. If your brother's house was there with white, then you could have written your brother's house is white with blue shutters. Yes, Soman, that is also one way of writing my processor, Mr. Brown, whose house is white with blue shutters. Then comma, live next to my brother. That could also be one way of writing. Both the houses, yes, Jyoti, that could also be one of the ways to write that. Now, lesson 6 is who versus that. Okay, so sometimes we use who, sometimes we use that. When to use who, when to use that, and in extension to that, when to use when and when to use where. Who, that, where, when. That, that is a word which used many times in many ways. Now, use the pronoun who when referring to people, right? You use who when you are Jitendra, you as a reader found that white Mr. Brown's house. Some other reader may get confused. Another reader can think of his brother because it was talking about the brother. So it's better to be clear, right? Why to keep that open-ended? Now let's see about uses of these pronouns. When do we use them? So who versus that? Who is for any living thing. That is for any non-living thing. Absolutely. When referring to time and where referring to places. Okay. So I know a man that climbed. Now that is incorrect. It will be I know a man who climbed the Mount Everest. The Mount Everest. Incorrect in this case. Is there a time that you can come to my house? Is there a time when you can come to my house? Because we're talking about time, so it is about when. Right? So who and that, especially many a times you will find that difference. Who is for people or any living thing. That is for things or in non-living things. Now let's quickly do an exercise about this. You have to either choose who, that, when or where. Okay. So question number 24 is she is the one. Okay, fill in the blanks. Tell me which one will you fill. Who, that, when, where. Out of these, which one do you? Yes, Devmitra, that is also a very common mistake, right? Okay, so now answer this one. Ayushi is saying who. Okay. Then Nupur is saying who. Okay, most of you are correct. So she is the one who broke my windows. She is the person who will do who. Alright. Let's now see question number 25. It is frustrating to own a car. Yes, now tell me. What will you write here? In question number 25, what will you write? It is frustrating to own a car. That. Okay. Alright. That. Now, some of you may also think that we can use which also. Yes, which does not even work. So that takes to our next thing, which is why that, why not which. So we have just the final lesson, which is lesson number 7. We have covered that versus which. We will just see that. But But take it as that. Okay. Yes, Ayushi, I will talk about which, why we will not take which, and in which cases we use which, we will just say that. But since we are talking about that, a non living thing, we will use that. Then which does not even work. I've used which in this particular case. That does not even, that should have been there, but I've used which. I will just tell you this difference between that and which, okay, in the next lesson. Okay, since I have given here option between who, that, when, where, let me fix that so that it does not create any confusion. So I will just fix it and make it that. The reason is, although which can also be there, but the reason is we are just um, feeling between these four: who, that, when, where. Okay, and that is why I'm taking that. I will talk about when to use which. Okay, in this particular case, question number 26. Do you remember the one time dash you broke your leg? Which one we will use here? When? Okay. This seems pretty simple. When you refer to time, we use when. Right. Then question number 27 is this one. Fill the full. Okay, this is the neighborhood. Now, what about this one? Question number 27. Okay, try answering question number 27. When? Okay. Where? Right. So, this is the neighborhood where I grew up. Since we are talking about the places, we will check it as where. Alright, great. Now, that is the lesson that I was also waiting for, and you saw that when do we see in one particular case which versus that. Now, let's see this one. Okay, which versus that. Sometimes we use in a sentence that, sometimes we use which. This is the final lesson, and after that, this is lesson number 7. Sorry, this we need to fix that. This one again, just a second. This is lesson number 7 because we were here in lesson number 6, right? So this will be lesson number 7. All right. So quickly, we will now complete this. In a defining clause, we use that. I will tell you what is defining and non-defining. In non-defining clauses, we use which. Now, we use which. Think of it as a disposable, as a sandwich. It seems to be as disposable as a sandwich bag. When you eat sandwich, okay, sometimes we use with bag, okay, and sometimes you just throw the bag. Still, it does not make any changes in the way, in the taste of sandwich, okay. So it's a sandwich bag. If you can remove the clause without destroying the meaning of the sentence, the clause is non-essential and you can use which. So we use which only for non-essential things. Something which is essential, something that denotes a particular thing, that defines or that points towards a particular, a specific thing, we use that. Now, let's look at these two examples. My bike that has a broken seat in the garage. My bike which has a broken seat is in the garage. When I'm talking about the my bike that has a broken seat, now this is a defining clause. That means That is defining the bike which has a broken seat. I have multiple bikes. Out of these, one bike has a broken seat, and I am talking about the one bike which has a broken seat is in the garage. That is why I tell you that my bike that has a broken seat is in the garage. So I'm pointing out that. Okay. Similarly, in this case, we saw on a car that does not even work. I was specifically pointing towards, and that is why which was incorrect over here. We were talking about a car that does not work. I was pointing towards that, and therefore we use that over here. Um, yes. So a specific, yes, particular bike. I'm talking about a particular bike in this case. In the second case, however, my bike which has a broken seat is in the garage. That means my bike, I am just adding more information. I have just one bike, okay, and I'm adding more one information to that my bike which has a broken seat, okay, is in the garage. Now this second sentence is telling me that I have one bike, it has a broken seat, and it is there in the garage. That is talking about the bike that has a broken seat. So just to again think in your mind that you will use that when you are pointing towards something specific. You will use which when you want to add more information about something. Then we will use which, we will put comma, then we will use which, and then we will add some information. Even if we do not use which has a broken seat, this is fine. This sentence will make sense that my bike, I have one bike and my bike is in the garage, and that will be fine. In this case, if we remove that, then this will not make a sentence. This will not make sense because I have many bikes. I don't know which bike I am talking about. So I have used my bike that has a broken seat is in the garage. Right? So Ayushi is saying that which symbolizes the quantity 1. Yes, and which also symbolizes that you are just adding more information about this something that you are talking about. That means there could be multiple, but you are talking about a specific bike. Okay? And you are giving, then you are telling that it is in the garage. Jitendra, it is how it is pointing that defining. It is defining because my bike that has a broken seat, that I'm talking about my bike which bike that has a broken seat, right? That means I have multiple bikes, but I'm talking about a bike that has a broken seat. Okay, my bike that is puncture is parked outside. My bike which is okay, or that is okay, not which. See, this is the mistake that we make. That is okay uh, is inside the house. So I'm saying that my bike that has, so the moment we talk about the country that has, the people that have, so that means there are set of people, but we are talking only about the specific set of people which has that. Okay. Dimitra is saying confused. Explain again. Think in this way. If you have multiple things and you want to point out towards a specific thing, then you will use that. Okay, that defining, if you want to define a particular object, then you will use that. When you want to add more information, here that has a broken seat, it is not adding information, it is the broken seat is defining the bike. Which bike you are talking about? The bike that has a broken seat. Okay, so that is basically, that has a broken seat is defining a particular bike. In this particular case, my bike which has a broken seat, this is just adding more information about this bike. Okay, so this is how, Dimitra, is that clear? This is defining the bike that I'm talking about, a specific bike which has a broken seat. In this case, you are talking about your bike, adding more information that it has a broken seat. Okay, so the country that has something that has a dictatorship, a country that is under dictatorship. So it's now you're talking specifically pointing out towards country which is or that is under dictatorship, right? So and which we write to add more information about a particular thing. If this is still not clear, then just connect with me. I will help you understand this. Quickly, let's see that which versus that correctly. I've taken a few quotes, okay, from the internet. This is famous quotes, and try to figure it out whether we should use which or that. So by three methods we may learn wisdom. First by reflection, that is noblest. Second by imitation, that is easiest. And third by experience, that is bitterest. So okay, do you think where we need to fix this? Which all changes are required in this? Anybody? The country that is under that, it should be that, not which. If you want to write which, then Jitendra, you have to put the country, then comma, which is under dictatorship. Okay, then you are adding more information about the country. But if you have to just point out that uh, a particular country, then you have to write the country that is under dictatorship. Okay, in this particular case, all that will be replaced by which. Why? Because it is just saying that by three methods we may learn wisdom. First by reflection, second by imitation, and third by experience. Now, this is noblest, imitation, and bitterest. This is adding more information to this part. Noblest is adding more information to reflection. Imitation is adding more information to easiest is adding more information to imitation. It is saying that imitation is easiest, and experience is adding the bitterest is adding the experience to the information to experience, which is saying that it is the most bitterest, right? So the correct would be by three methods we may learn wisdom. First by reflection, which is noblest. That means which is noblest is extending this reflection. It is adding more information to reflection, and it is saying it is noblest. Second by imitation, which is easiest. So it is saying easiest is adding more information to imitation. It is saying that imitation is the easiest thing to do. And then third by experience, which is the bitterest. Now the bitterest is again adding more information to experience, and that is why which is the bitterest. In any case, we are putting the comma. That means we are going to use which. Okay, we are going to add more information. All right. Then question number 29: to be yourself in a world which is constantly trying to make you something else is greatest accomplishment. So can you answer this one? To be yourself in a world which is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest compliment. Okay. Any particular response to this one? Okay. So I do request all of you to do some practice on which versus that. No comma, yes, Suma, that you have picked it up correctly. So it is not comma, so we will use that. Okay. Yes. The correct would be the to try to be yourself that is constantly trying to make you something else. Right? um, because you are pointing towards a world that is trying to make you somebody else, right? Is the greatest accomplishments. This is the, by the way, this is the quote that I've taken from the internet. These are the quotes. Okay. Okay. Question number 30. 20 years from now, okay, see, Ayushi is saying, but the world is only one. Well, Ayushi, the point here is that when we talk about world, we are generalizing things, a kind of set of things that is trying to make you something else, right? In that case, this is more of figurative speech. Uh, the world, in case you just look at this, the world is not trying to make you something else, right? But set of things like advertising, communication, media, it is talking about that specific things, and it is in a figurative sense we are talking about that. That is the world that we are living in. It is constantly trying to make you something else, right? Sometimes if you take in that figurative sense, then my world could be different from your world if I'm not living in this. So that is the figurative speech that it is talking, right? So that is why talking about the world that is trying to make you something else. Yes, Ayushi, is that clear? Okay. Now, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by things which you did not do than by the ones you did do. Sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. This is the final question. With this, we will end the session. But yes, please tell me if you have any questions with that in this. Any answer of this question? Learn is not constantly trying to make you something else, is an additional information. Jitendra, then you have to put comma and then write uh, that it is trying to make you something else. Put comma and then use which. Right, here 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you don't do. Right? Again, it is pointing towards things that you did not do. Therefore, we will use that. Okay? So, again, the answer of this would be 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things that you did not do than by the ones you did do. So, this is right. All of you are correct. And that is the end of the session here. Please tell me if you have any question. Um, yes, if you have any questions, please tell me. Else, I will end the session now. We have already taken more time than we could have taken, but that is okay. As long as even the single person is learning from by extending time, it is worth it. Okay. Rather than going on the volumes, it's more important to learn, and even a single person learns something. It is uh, okay. Um, Okay, I usually seeing the difference between which and that is a bit confusing. I usually see what you need to do is you do some practice, okay, and use that in which, and try to add information in when you're trying to point out something, use that, okay. When we are trying to add more information to something, use which. Practice in this way, that will help you understand. The more practice will make you understand this thing. But just I brought this to your notice so that you can now pay attention to when which has been used and when that has been used. And if you have any confusion why this has been which, why that has been that, feel free to come back to me. All right. Okay, then thanks everyone. Thank you very much. I hope. Uh, all right, great. Thank you. In case if you have any topics in mind, feel free to share it with me, something that we cover in the classroom in our training program. we will not cover here. But in addition to that, if you have something in your mind that you want me to cover, we will cover that. Uh, Jitendra is saying if we have two non-related sentences and the third sentence consists of pronoun, will it automatically refer to the second one? Jitendra, no, it is not uh, necessary that the third sentence that has a pronoun which will automatically refer to the second one. But it depends on situation. Sometimes it might do that, and the reason for that is because the rule of proximity, that which is nearest to the pronoun, it tends to talk about that. So in the second sentence, I'm talking about my brother, and then I use he. So that means I'm talking about my brother. Ayushi is saying, okay, great, Ayushi, thank you very much. I was not able to watch the last two live sessions. Ayushi, the recording of this is available. Okay, I will just mention this on the chat over here. And by the way, if you will go on the YouTube channel, if you just click on the channel, you will find various playlists. Okay, and in which you will find the Logophile Lounge and the previous sessions are automatically uh, there. So every session is recorded in there on the YouTube. How to make writing engaging? How to make engaging writing so that you can engage more readers, right? That is part of creative writing. We will surely cover that, right? Okay. Thanks everybody. Thank you very much. Please like this session if you like it, and share it with your friends. Use the link that you are using right now. You can use the same link to share it on social media on other platforms. Thank you very much. We will meet once again next Thursday. Thanks, Ayushi. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. I'm now ending the session here. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.